The year was 1813. In the quiet town of Edenton, North Carolina, a little girl entered the world. She was given the name Harriet Ann Jacobs. To anyone watching, she looked like any other child, curious, innocent, and full of dreams. But there was one cruel truth that had already decided her future before she could even speak. She was born into slavery. In America, the law did not see Harriet as a child. It saw her as property. She could be bought, sold, punished, or separated from her family at any moment. Her life belonged to someone else. Yet, during her earliest years, Harriet did not fully understand the darkness surrounding her. Her parents loved her deeply, and her grandmother surrounded her with warmth and faith. For a brief moment, childhood felt almost normal. That illusion did not last. When Harriet was just 6 years old, her mother died. The loss shattered her world. She searched every room, hoping to hear her mother's voice one more time. Instead, she found silence. Soon after, another devastating truth was revealed. She discovered that she wasn't free. She belonged to another family. Imagine being a little girl and learning that your future, your dreams, and even your own body were owned by someone else. Harriet later remembered that moment as the day her childhood truly ended. Fortunately, her first mistress treated her with kindness. Harriet was taught to read, write, and sew, something that many enslaved children were never allowed to learn. Books became her secret escape. Every page she read opened a window to a world where people made their own choices. But fate was preparing another storm. When Harriet was about 12 years old, her kind mistress passed away. Everything changed overnight. Instead of receiving freedom, Harriet was inherited like furniture. She became the property of a man whose name would haunt her for years. Dr. James Norcom. To the outside world, he was a respected physician. Inside his home, he became Harriet's greatest nightmare. As Harriet entered her teenage years, Norcom began to control every part of her life. His words became darker. His attention became terrifying. He whispered threats. He made promises designed to trap her forever. Harriet was only a young girl. She had no legal protection. No one would believe the voice of an enslaved child over the word of a wealthy white doctor. Every day felt like walking through a prison with invisible walls. She tried to avoid him. She stayed close to other women whenever possible. She prayed. She cried in silence. But the danger kept growing. Dr. Norcom became furious whenever Harriet resisted him. Instead of accepting her refusal, he punished her with fear. He threatened to send her away from everyone she loved. For an enslaved person, being sold was often worse than death. Families disappeared forever. Children never saw their parents again. Mothers searched for sons who had been taken hundreds of miles away. Harriet knew exactly what could happen. Still, she refused to surrender. That single decision would define the rest of her life. She would not allow anyone to steal her dignity, even if it meant risking everything. While many people around her had lost hope after years of cruelty, Harriet continued to think differently. She watched carefully. She listened. She learned how the people around her behaved. Every conversation became a lesson. Every mistake made by her enslavers became knowledge she stored away. She was preparing for something, even if she didn't yet know exactly what. Her greatest source of strength was her grandmother, Molly Horniblow. Although also living under the brutal system of slavery, her grandmother possessed extraordinary courage. She became a pillar for the black community, offering food, comfort, and faith to those who had almost nothing left. Whenever Harriet felt broken, she returned to her grandmother's home. There she found the one thing slavery could never completely destroy: hope. Her grandmother often reminded her, "They may chain your hands, child, but never let them chain your soul." Those words settled deep inside Harriet's heart. Years passed. The pressure from Dr. Norcom became unbearable. He tried to isolate Harriet from everyone who cared about her. He wanted complete control over her future. But Harriet quietly began making choices that shocked him. Choices he never expected. She realized that surviving sometimes required impossible decisions. She knew that every path ahead carried danger. Obey, or resist. Either choice could destroy her life. Yet Harriet was no longer thinking only about survival. She was beginning to dream about freedom. Not just for herself, but for the family she hoped to protect one day. That dream seemed impossible. Almost every enslaved person who attempted to escape was captured. Many were whipped. Some were killed. Others were sold deep into the South, where life became even more brutal. Everyone told Harriet the same thing. There is no escape. But deep inside, another voice whispered something very different. There must be. She began secretly studying the roads around Edenton. She paid attention whenever travelers mentioned northern states. She memorized names, distances, safe places. She never spoke about these thoughts aloud. Not even to those she trusted most. Because one careless word could cost a life. Every smile she forced during the day hid another plan growing stronger inside her heart. She was waiting, watching, learning, preparing. And although the slaveholders believed they owned Harriet Jacobs, they had already lost the one thing they could never control. Her mind, her courage, her determination. Very soon, the young girl who had spent her entire life in chains would make a decision so dangerous that it would place a price on her head, tear her away from everything she loved, and begin one of the most extraordinary escape stories in American history. Harriet Jacobs knew that time was running out. Dr. James Norcom had become more determined than ever to control her life. Every refusal made him angrier. Every act of resistance brought new threats. He promised to send her away to a distant plantation, where she would never see her family again. For Harriet, that was a fate worse than death. Then life gave her another reason to fight. She became the mother of 2 children, a son, Joseph, and a daughter, Louisa. The moment she held them in her arms, her fear changed into determination. She looked into their innocent faces and made a silent promise. My children will never grow up believing they were born to be someone's property. But protecting them seemed impossible. Dr. Norcom used Harriet's love for her children as another weapon. He believed that sooner or later she would surrender to save them. He was wrong. One dark night, Harriet made the most dangerous decision of her life. She disappeared. The town erupted in panic. Slave catchers searched the roads. Dogs followed every scent they could find. Neighbors were questioned. Rewards were offered for anyone who could capture the young enslaved woman. But Harriet had not fled north. She had chosen something almost unimaginable. She hid only a short distance from the very people searching for her. Her grandmother secretly helped prepare a tiny crawl space above a storage shed. It wasn't a room. It wasn't even large enough to stand. The space was barely 9 feet long, 7 feet wide, and only about 3 feet high. Harriet had to spend nearly every hour lying down or crawling. There was almost no fresh air. Summer turned it into an oven. Winter made it freezing cold. Rain leaked through the roof. Rats and insects became constant companions. Yet Harriet refused to leave. From a tiny hole she carefully carved into the wall, she could sometimes watch her children playing outside. She heard them laugh. She watched them grow taller. She longed to run into their arms. But she remained perfectly silent. If they knew she was there, they might accidentally reveal the secret. A single word could destroy everything. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Months slowly became years. Every muscle in Harriet's body weakened. Her back ached constantly. Her legs often became numb from remaining in the same position. Sometimes she wondered if she would ever walk freely again. Still, she never surrendered. Meanwhile, Norcom believed Harriet had escaped far away. He continued searching across different states. He spent money hiring people to find her. Yet all along, she was hidden almost within reach. It was a victory of patience over power. During those long years of isolation, Harriet did something remarkable. She kept thinking. She kept planning. She refused to let despair control her mind. She imagined the day her children would wake up free. That dream became stronger than her pain. Finally, after nearly 7 years hidden in the attic, Harriet knew she could wait no longer. With the help of trusted friends, she secretly traveled north. Every mile carried new dangers. Slave catchers still searched for escaped men and women. Even in the northern states, freedom was uncertain. The law still allowed escaped enslaved people to be captured and returned. Harriet eventually reached New York. For the first time in her life, she walked through crowded streets where no chains bound her feet. But peace did not last. Dr. Norcom continued trying to reclaim her. Even hundreds of miles away, Harriet was never completely safe. Then came another cruel blow. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 made it easier for slave catchers to seize escaped people, even in free states. Harriet realized she could lose everything again. Instead of hiding forever, she chose another path. She decided to tell the truth. She began writing her own story. In 1861, her powerful autobiography, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, was published. Unlike many books of its time, it revealed slavery through the eyes of a young black woman. She wrote honestly about fear, about motherhood, about courage, about the impossible choices forced upon enslaved women. Many readers were shocked. For the first time, thousands of Americans saw slavery not as a political debate, but as a human tragedy. Harriet's words reached hearts that speeches never could. During the American Civil War, she continued helping newly freed black families. She worked with refugees. She cared for children. She raised money and supplies for people who had lost everything. Even after gaining her own freedom, she never stopped fighting for others. Harriet Jacobs passed away in 1897, but her voice never disappeared. Today, historians recognize her as one of the bravest women in American history. She proved that courage is not always loud. Sometimes courage is surviving one more day. Sometimes courage is protecting your children at any cost. Sometimes courage is spending 7 unimaginable years inside a tiny attic, because you believe freedom is worth every sacrifice. Harriet Jacobs was born into chains, but she refused to let those chains define who she was. Her body could be imprisoned. Her future could be threatened. Her family could be torn apart. Yet her spirit remained unconquered. And that is why, more than a century later, the world still remembers the girl who refused to be a slave. Her story reminds us that even in history's darkest moments, hope can survive. And sometimes, the quietest acts of resistance become the loudest echoes of freedom. Thank you for watching Unshackled Histories. If Harriet Jacobs' extraordinary courage moved you, please like this video, subscribe, and share her story so that her voice, and the voices of countless others who fought for freedom, are never forgotten.